ready. Welcome to Champagne and Champions. I'm your host Lorena, and every week I'm bringing you unique stories from people and places that are unlike anything you know. My guests live unconventional lives. Their stories are raw, real, and in champagne terms, brute. They will no doubt inspire you to drink more, eat more, but most importantly, inspire you to live more. Cheers. It's time to celebrate. Welcome, champs, to this solo episode of Champagne and Champions. I'm your host, Lo, and as always, I'm excited to bring you the stories from rebels, the misfits, those who have taken the path less traveled, all to inspire you to uncork your truth. Champs, I really want to thank you for joining me on this solo episode. This episode is all about social media and how it can affect your business negatively. I mean, if you haven't heard, it really can take a toll on your mental health. And some of you have heard that, but you don't associate it with things like depression and loneliness. But it can and does have an impact on your personal life. And if you have an idea for a business or you have a business, it can definitely impact that as well. So social media has become this really great place to promote your business. It's always been the way I've seen it since I got on, like when Facebook was becoming popular. And shout out to my friend Jen Cleveland, who has always told me like, oh my gosh, this is the next platform you need to be on. And I've always been like, what? That sounds dumb. And then I get on it and I'm like, oh my God, it's been great. I've always on this show talked about things like Twitter. And I made great friendships through Twitter. I've made some great business connections through Twitter. So it used to be this place of great connections because people would not just focus on conversing online and just talking. It was really about connecting. It's like, okay, we can talk on these platforms, but let's take it offline and like meet in person. So social media was that before, particularly Twitter. And even as businesses started to grow, it became like this great money generating machine where you could talk about your business and it was still able to make an impact. But lately it's become so very noisy. And I mean, right now we live in a world where social media is constantly telling us we're not good enough, we're not fit enough, we don't love enough, we're not living our best lives. Like your feeds are completely inundated with this information telling you you're just not good enough. And it's really affecting us, all of us. So much so that studies have been done to prove that social media actually does have a negative effect on our mental health. There was a study that was published out of Pennsylvania, and according to the study, those who are on social media the most are actually the most depressed and the most lonely. So it even it mentioned things like people posting photos of themselves like in relationships, social outings, which is actually very interesting to me because when you're posting stuff about your relationships and your photos, you're out with your friends, you're surrounded by people. So I don't know how that makes you look more lonely. But the study suggested that it does, because if you're on social media a lot posting stuff like that, the study says that you are likely more depressed, more lonely. The study also said that we don't necessarily need to cut social media out of our lives altogether, but we need to curtail it. So what's funny is that the study said that we need to be on social media less in order to feel less lonely, because initially the purpose of social media was to connect with people, right? But what I have found over the years, I think even since I first started to really become involved with social media, it's turned into less connection and more noise. And I'm not just talking about ads. We start to experience the detrimental effects of social comparison. And that's how other people's lives look so much cooler than ours, right? But when you're looking online and people are posting their best selves, you have to understand that this is typically that's their highlight reel. People are posting their ups And really, some of these people inside, they're like vapid. They're sad, they're empty, and you're never going to know this. You're just, because they're just showing you like this great life they live. But that's why it's so important not to invest into personal lives over the internet, because you don't actually know the real story. And because social media can leave this real feeling of unworthiness, it can cause us to shrink. It can cause us not to show up for the people that we're really supposed to be there for, especially ourselves. And it seems like we don't want to show up then because it makes us feel like we're not good enough. We're not cool enough. And that is exactly how it can have an effect on your business. You may decide that, hey, I don't really want to show up. I don't really want to start a business because it's not as good as I saw this girl on Instagram doing it. And I can't be at that level, so I'm just not going to try at all. So, like, the bottom line with this is that social media, especially spending long periods of time, is not good for our well-being at all. So you may be wondering, okay, if I'm on social media too much, how can I curtail this addiction? Well, I challenge you to take inventory. For the next week, I want to know what you do when you first wake up. Like, a lot of people that I know, the first thing they do, and I know because I've done this as well, like none of this is, like I'm not immune to any of this stuff. I actually find interest in this because the reality is that I've experienced these things. I've seen how social media can affect people. It's affected me. I am in, like, before this rebranding I've done with my business, my sole job was everything online marketing. And that required a lot with going on to clients' Facebook pages. And a lot of times it required me logging into my own Facebook pages. And it's like, you know, you go through that and it really started to make me hate social media. You know, I was like the person online despising online. And since then, it's nothing personal against anybody, but like I unfollowed a ton of people. I muted a ton of people because I needed to configure my feeds to things that were funny to me, because there was really, like, I have done some social media detoxes before. I've completely just deactivated my account, and sometimes just business wise, I wasn't able to get away from that. If they didn't have accounts set up already, or they're like, we need to make you an admin for our page. And it required me to, I even had to create an alternate Facebook page just to be able to avoid all the noise that was online. But on my own personal account, I unfollowed a lot of people. I muted a ton of people because, again, I needed to configure it to my needs, to the things that were like funny, entertaining, business, educational, that were inspiring. I was also able to figure out like how to hide all the ads, but that's a whole other show. But it's important for me to tell you that this was for my sanity. This wasn't anything personal against anybody. And that's actually why I've told my friends, like, if you unfollow me online, I'm okay with that. The things I post about, I actually think about. Like, I try to make posts that might make someone feel something, laugh, learn something. And I'm not always 100% the best at it, but I try to do that. Most of the time I try to think about what I'm posting because I understand that it could impact someone. It could, affect someone. Maybe it could make someone laugh, or as opposed to me being it on the self-serving agenda. And I'll post positive things. And I realize sometimes people, it's not even anything against me. Sometimes people are not in a place where they want to hear about positivity or whatever the case may be. And as long as, I always say this, as long as we're friends in life, I'm okay with that. You should be okay with that too. People put a lot of weight over the whole unfollow, follow thing. And I think we need to ask ourselves why. Why does that bother us so much? Before, what did we do before? Before social media, we had friendships. And if we didn't see someone for 10 years, we weren't like, oh, you're not my friend. It was like, hey, I haven't seen you in forever. How are you? And you'd catch up, whatever the case may be. But now it's like, oh, you don't follow me, so we're not friends. And it's sad to see that this is where we've come. This is what we're doing now. This is exactly where the place that we've put ourselves in. So again, I want you to sort of I want to challenge you to take inventory for the next week. What do you do when you first wake up? How much time are you spending on social media daily? And I want you to just bring awareness. You don't have to take steps right now, but I want to know how you feel after spending so much time on it. Because I'd be willing to bet it leaves you feeling like you're not going to have a great day. I don't think that people get on social media for hours at a time and just are like, hey, yeah, feel great. I'm ready to go start my day now. I think it is quite the opposite. Like I have done a lot of research on this stuff, just particularly because me personally, I've spent so much time online, and I've seen, I don't like the way it makes me feel sometimes. It makes me feel like I'm an inadequate business owner. So I'm just like, I don't need someone to show me that they're living their best life when I know so much about their lives, and I'm like, I know exactly how it really is. And that's also part of it. I'm like, you see someone's highlight reel and you're like, okay, but I know what's really going on. So I'm like, I just have to tune that stuff out. So I want you to figure out, how do you feel after you're spending so much time on social media? And again, you don't have to take particular steps. I just want you to become more aware of it. And I also want to say that, like, my friends out there, again, you have the permission to unfollow me and unfriend me if you don't like what I'm posting or what I have to say, or you feel like don't impact your life some way. That's fine. But at the end of the day, if we're not friends in life, then just like do me that favor and be like, hey, we're just not friends in life. But it's okay if you unfollow me on social media, as long as we're friends in life. My circle knows who they are. Like, they know we're friends. Like, that's fine. I will not be offended by that, because we have to stop equating the amount of likes and followers we get to our worthiness. I mean, even when you are starting a business, especially actually when you're starting a business and people are just getting to know you, don't think that people like not liking your posts, not engaging with you, doesn't mean you don't have a great business idea. It doesn't mean you are less worthy. So you guys, it's time to cut the noise. So friends, I challenge you this week. I want you to take stock of how much time you're spending on social media and how you feel after spending the time you spend on social media. And we can follow this episode up with ways to help curtail that info and see if it helps folks show up more for their offline lives. And if not, or if it does, I'd really love to hear your thoughts so I can talk about them on the next show. You can email us at champagneandchampions@gmail.com. Until then, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in this week. Tune in next time for some motivation, inspiration, and some celebration. Cheers. That's this week's episode of Champagne and Champions. Make sure you tune in again next week for some motivation, inspiration, and some celebration. Cheers. Thanks for listening.